I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves.
How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it.
Welcome to Watch This, the brand new Megadad series where I am joined with Nick Edwards, and we watch good things, bad things, strange things, everything in the middle, and our debut episode might be a bizarre combination of all of those things. On this first episode, Nick and I endured 4 hours of DC Cinematic Universe, and we watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm going to read the synopsis. Fueled by his restored faith in humanity and inspired by Superman's selfless act, Bruce Wayne enlists newfound ally Diana Prince to face an even greater threat. Together, Batman and Wonder Woman work quickly to recruit a team to stand against this newly awakened enemy. Despite the formation of an unprecedented league of heroes, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash, it may be too late to save the planet from an assault of catastrophic proportions. That's heavy, Nick.
That makes me want to watch it immediately.
All over again.
All 4 hours of it. You know, the more I read up on what happened behind the scenes, the more I found myself rooting for Zack Snyder, which I don't think I would have ever done. We all know Batman vs. Superman released a few years before this, and it was awful. It was terrible. And then he got to release his director's cut, which I didn't bother watching because the first part was bad enough.
I have to say, we'll talk a little bit about our feelings going into this movie in a minute, but Batman vs. Superman is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Definitely my least favorite superhero movie. I always say this, it's one of the few movies where after we were finished, I had to apologize to my wife because I felt so bad that she had to sit through it.
No, you get the sense, like, once that movie came out and you start hearing rumblings of Warner Brothers being this controlling entity and making changes, and then you see what happened with Suicide Squad. Not to say that that was a good movie, or that was a train wreck as well. And then you hear about his daughter committing suicide and Joss Whedon being there behind the scenes. I kind of imagine him like an old-timey villain.
Whedon with the strings, the puppet master.
And then you're just like, oh, this guy got a really bad shake. I wouldn't mind seeing what he originally had envisioned for this movie. And it kind of got me on board. The more and more I saw, like, okay, I'm going to give this dude a chance. Because he is a very visual filmmaker. And I like the visuals that he presents. It's just when he is given a script that he didn't write, I think he does much better.
Walking into this, I'm not one of these people that is biased one way or the other, Marvel, DC. I love DC characters. I think I probably enjoy more of the Marvel universe. My opinion on DC is like, they've got a core set of really cool characters, and then they have a shit ton of dorks, right? It's kind of how I view DC. And while I put Dark Knight as like my favorite superhero movie ever, so like there's a lot of love for DC characters in my opinion. I watched The Flash. I love Superman, and Lois is a fantastic TV show right now. So I have a lot of love for DC. This particular universe I have never enjoyed. I didn't like Man of Steel. I already said I hated Batman vs. Superman. I watched the original, I guess the Whedon cut of Justice League, and that was my favorite of the three, even though it was a bad movie, a very bad movie. It was at least, there was some levity there that I enjoyed, because everything has been so dark and dour. And so when I heard that this movie was coming out, this cut, and that it was 4 hours long, I was just like, I was ready for a wave of depression. But you said this was gonna be the one. This is what you wanted to force me to watch. Why were you so adamant that you were gonna pick this movie?
Because I just thought it was going to be a train wreck the entire way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if we're going to do this series and we're going to do it right, we might as well start it off with 4 hours of a train wreck. I appreciate what he's trying to do with these characters. I think I saw somebody on Twitter try to explain it. Like, Marvel is ordinary people being put into these situations where they have to be better people. Mm-hmm. Suddenly they're given great powers and they have to find out what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
DC is like, these people are already powerful. They're basically gods, and they have to figure out how to be people. And I guess once I started thinking about that, I could appreciate it more.
Sure.
But I didn't expect to actually like the movie as much as I did.
All right. Well, the general consensus among critics, before we talk about our actual review, it sits at a 54% on Metacritic, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb. So critics can't really come to a consensus on this movie. I think whereas the original cut was universally panned, nobody liked that crap. This one has got people split. You seem to be very warmed to this movie, so tell us. I'm gonna have you start off.
What was missing from the Whedon version was like any sense of motivation for these characters. And I think when you add that extra 2 hours into a runtime, you can further explain characters' motivations and their wants, their needs, and their sudden turns. If your movie is going to be 4 hours, make more than one movie, because you're not doing anybody any credit. You're not doing your characters a service by trying to jam all that stuff in. Granted, these characters are getting their own movies, and we know a little bit more about them.
This universe just did not have the proper setup that it needed. I felt like this was the flip side of the coin of the first version, where it's like we didn't have enough time to set these characters up. They just got to be a team, right? And this one was like, we didn't have enough time to set these characters up, so let's spend half of this movie setting these characters up, and then they're going to be a team. But then it felt too bloated. So there was no way to. You're right. There it should have been 2 movies. There was no way to do this right within one movie. But I think this one did it better. For sure.
Better.
The best parts of this movie to me were the characters that weren't so depressing. Like Aquaman was awesome. I loved Aquaman, and he had darker motivations, cast out, and he's a fish out of water. But his character itself was charming, right? Like he was funny. He was relatable. He was fun to watch, and you were cheering for him. Flash, I'm mixed on the Flash. They tried to make him the comedy relief, and he had some really cool moments. I think his effects were really cool. I hate that costume. I hate the costume in this movie so much. It looks like Injustice armor, and it doesn't work for me.
I still have questions about the rules of Aquaman.
Yeah.
Like, he apparently Aqua people, if I'm saying that right. Mm-hmm. Atlanteans or whatever.
No, we're gonna go with Aqua people.
Aqua people. Apparently they can't breathe in air, but Arthur can, because he is half human, half aqua person.
Mm-hmm. All badass.
But then you have Myrna?
Is that the girl?
The girl,
yeah. Sure.
Aqua person.
I just know there was Jason Momoa, girl, and Willem Dafoe, and I haven't seen the Aquaman movie, so I have no idea who any of these characters are whatsoever.
But she's not a half-blood, and neither is Willem Dafoe, as far as I can tell. But they're like standing out of the water, not flopping around like fish.
That would have been so much better.
Yeah. I need to talk to you, Arthur, on land. Spritz me with the hose if you can.
I'm not sure this movie is concerned with rules.
So while I don't have a problem with Aquaman as a character, I agree with your points that he was, charming, and his motivations, at least in the Snyder Cut, were more thought out and better and made more sense for him. I don't agree with the rules of the Aquaverse. Now the Flash, I feel like they didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Because every single time it was his time to shine, it was, I need to run really fast and touch somebody for an electric charge. That was his two big moments in the movie.
And can we discuss the ridiculous amount of slow motion in this movie? This movie could have been 2.5 hours easy if we didn't spend 25 minutes watching Lois Lane get her coffee. The Flash scenes were really cool, really well done, but there was so much slow motion done everywhere for no reason that it to me it watered down when they would do a Flash sequence, because it's like, well, yeah, but I just got done with a 10-minute slow motion sequence where a bunch of girls were singing to Aquaman and smelling his sweater. It felt so overplayed that I feel like if they would have cut a lot of that other stuff out, it would have made the Flash stuff way cooler.
Like you said, you don't need to see slow down Lois Lane.
Wonder Woman, I thought was awesome. I think her intro sequence is probably my favorite scene out of the movie. The bank heist. It was a bank or a museum or something.
Something. They were blowing something up.
I thought that was so cool. I want you to talk about Cyborg.
Oh, God. Okay, Cyborg.
The heart of the Justice League movie.
That everyone says Cyborg is the heart of this movie, and a kind of way he is. He has the biggest arc in the Snyder Cut. He goes from feeling like a monster to feeling like he has a purpose, and hating his father and seeing this growth. That part was nice. The part that I didn't like the part that I didn't like was, I know it's hard to get away from like the 1994 hackers way of looking at the internet.
Yeah.
But all the points where he's inside the internet, it's so ridiculous.
I feel bad because I feel like all of the reviews and impressions that I've seen and read of this movie was this is Cyborg's movie. And I just think that character is incredibly stupid. I think it is so dorky and makes so little sense for somebody who doesn't know. Like, I have no connection or history with that character. I don't know anything about him other than he's like and what they tell me in this movie, he's like a half robot guy. So to me, his whole backstory doesn't make any sense. His dad is a scientist. He gets in a car crash. So naturally, he's going to steal his son's corpse and fuse it with some alien technology because he knows that's going to work somehow?
The original version of Cyborg, I believe, is, his dad works for Star Labs, which you being a Flash fan should know pretty well. And then his mother also is a brilliant doctor of some sort. I don't really know that well. There is some sort of lab explosion. She dies instantly. He's torn to shreds. His father needs to make a choice of letting his son die, who he has been distant with because of work, or using all the technology at Star Labs to save him. And I think where they get it flipped a little bit is, well, they have to bring in Star Labs. So naturally, what is Star Labs doing? They're working on Superman's ship. Mm-hmm. And the mother boxes can not only destroy life, they can create life. So he's just like this weird version of a mother box who can also have access to our bank accounts.
I mean, like, I guess I understand the what I have a real problem with is how does his dad make that leap to knowing, maybe it was explained in this movie and I just didn't get it, but to me it's like, how does he know that that's gonna work? How does that even enter into his head that I'm gonna steal my son's dead body, bring it to my lab?
It wasn't dead. It wasn't all the way dead. He was still alive.
And how does he only have like part of his body left? Because like he was in a car crash, but he didn't. What did he like lose an arm or something in the movie? I can't remember. Because all that's left of him is like his head and torso now, right?
Yeah, the one scene where they showed him like in the hospital, it didn't look that bad.
It didn't look that bad.
It looked like
I'm like, what are you doing? Take a chainsaw out of this kid?
Yeah. And then they probably cut the scene because there are deleted scenes, by the way.
Oh my god.
They probably deleted the scene where his dad's in there with a hacksaw.
Is Snyder extra cut? All right, so that leaves us with Batman and Superman, right? The characters that we've had the most amount of time with before this movie in Zack Snyder's universe. Let's go to Batman first. This is probably where I have more love than I was expecting. I really like Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, and I think he's decent as Batman. I think Batman looks a little bit too chunky for my tastes.
Well,
that's like the Dark Knight Returns version, right? Like the Frank Miller. Is that the inspiration there? I don't know if that really works for me personally, but that's a taste thing. I'm willing to concede on that. I think he's really cool as Bruce Wayne. I like the fact that he's an older Batman. I think that's pretty neat. It's a Batman who's had a lot of miles behind him, right? So there's a reason for Batman to be as jaded, and I mean he's always a dark character, but he's just kind of like burnt out by the point we get to this movie, right? What do you think of Batfleck?
I liked his portrayal of Batman. I think he works well as an old, jaded Batman. Mm-hmm. The use of the guns and stuff was, even though it is in Frank Miller's version of him a little bit, it's still off-putting to see Batman use guns. Yeah,
it kind of like, it's like a last resort kind of thing, right? Like Batman is supposed to be super smart, best detective, lots of gadgets, outwit his opponents, scare his opponents, and in this one he's just kind of like a tank.
Yeah, he didn't seem smart at all.
Right.
Like he just seemed like, I have a lot of money, that's what's going for me, but I'm dummy thick, and I'm just gonna use my muscles and my money.
Meathead Batman.
Yeah.
Well, what about Superman?
Superman is probably my least favorite character of all time, but I enjoy watching Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's really good at it. I think
excellent Superman.
I think he's darker than what he's supposed to be, and again, going back to our earlier conversation, I get that. He's an alien god living on Earth, trying to figure out how he belongs. I get that. I get it's going to be a little bit depressing, but he's so scary good in this movie. Mm-hmm. The scene, my favorite scene in the movie is when he is brought back to life, and he's just attacking all the Justice League members, and the Flash is running, and it's all slow-mo, because of course it is. And then you just see Superman slightly turn his head.
Side-eye, yeah.
The side-eye and the look, it was like terrifying.
That was very cool, yeah. I think Henry Cavill absolutely owns the screen as Superman. I love Superman. I'm not like a huge fanatic, but I love the character and I love what the character stands for. Typically, I think Zack Snyder's Superman arc is very depressing and very off-putting for me. Man of Steel beats into your head that, you know, Superman is dangerous, hide your powers no matter what. He watches his dad die just so that he doesn't use his powers, which I think is supposed to show the importance and the gravity of who he is and what he means. But to me, it's like any other iteration of Superman that I've ever seen on screen would have said, I'm going to save someone, right? Like, I'm here to save people. And he watches his dad die. Batman versus Superman is Superman versus another hero because he's perceived as dangerous. Justice League, he is dangerous and he's fighting everybody. There's just so much darkness, and they never give Superman a chance to breathe until like the 5th act of this movie. He's finally Superman, right? And it's amazing watching Superman fight for good and help everyone and just be Superman-y is all I wanted from Henry Cavill's Superman. And you get it a little bit in this movie, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later, but then they go back to the well of Superman is dangerous. And that's not what I want to see from Superman is let's all be scared of Superman. No, Superman's supposed to be a beacon of light and hope, and he's supposed to be the triumph of humanity. He's the least human person on the planet, but yet he's the most humane. And I think Zack Snyder just whiffs on this so fucking hard in all of his movies. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I want to see him in a Superman movie that has nothing to do with Zack Snyder, because I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah, they start off the movie with him dying, and that being like the bell to the universe that Earth is no longer protected. So which is
cool. I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they acknowledge the fact that he is Earth's protector, but they also make him, like you said,
greatest threat,
the scary figure.
Yeah.
And even in all the flash forwards, like the premonitions, it's like, oh, well, I can see what is happening. He's going to turn again for like the second time in this movie.
In the same damn movie, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's not going to be the Superman that everyone knows and loves again. I can see how that's frustrating.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, so this is a 4-hour movie. 2 hours into it, I felt it started getting good. The first 2 hours are incredibly slow-paced. It's all world building and setup, and I felt it was just a complete drag. Once Superman is brought back, I felt that the movie kicked into overdrive. I loved that act, and all the way up until the finale of the conflict of this movie with Darkseid,
Tomato.
And
CGI boss number 3.
And Steppenwolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything where they're being superheroes together as a team, I thought was very well executed. I just feel like this movie has such a tendency to step on its own feet. You would get pockets of great storytelling in the first 2-3 hours, and then you would get hit with seemingly, you'd fluff. Just like this was the studio completely backing off from Zack Snyder and saying, just do everything. We won't stop you at all. I feel like there's a great movie in here, but it's not 4 hours long and it's not 2 hours long. It's somewhere in the middle, right? It's not Zack Snyder's and it's not Joss Whedon's. There should have been some trimming here, because once I felt like they were going somewhere, then they'd stop. And then they'd go somewhere and then they'd stop. And it wasn't until that 5th chapter or act that I felt like this movie finally just got out of its own way and was awesome. All right, well, I mean, all in all, I thought that this was a much improved Justice League. I actually found myself enjoying a lot of it when I didn't really want to watch this movie. It got me to a point where at the end of this film, I wanted to see more of these characters' interpretation, or these actors' interpretations of these characters. I just don't want Zack Snyder anywhere near it, because I don't think he makes very good superhero movies.
Watchmen was good because he didn't write it. There was a very tight script to follow that Alan Moore already laid out for him. This was all him. So I wouldn't mind seeing what he had planned for the rest of it. I want him to have a little bit of input. I don't want him to write it.
I'll tell you what ultimately puts me in the no more Zack Snyder camp. This movie begins, and for the first 2 hours, I'm bored out of my mind. Then it hits. Superman comes back. The team assembles. Assembles might not be the best word. They get together. They fight the enemy, and I'm loving it. I'm like, finally, I'm watching a superhero movie, and I'm really, really loving it. They defeat the bad guy. They're a team. There's hope for the world. And then we get the post-credit sequences.
Oh God. I'm so happy I'm not happy we're talking about this, but I'm happy we're talking about this at the same time.
And it was, to me, the absolute embodiment of what is wrong with all of Zack Snyder's films. And it's just that he just doesn't know when to stop. He doesn't know when to just fucking hit the brakes. He had a perfect ending with this movie. And he throws in, I think, 3 post-credit sequences or something like that. And the Bruce Wayne one was fine. It was dorky. Martian Manhunter, whatever. But what absolutely floored me was how shitty the flash forward to the Superman apocalypse was. And I was so angry that he ended the movie on that note. You know, he even showed a really great sequence of Henry Cavill running and doing the pull open the shirt and become Superman. And I'm like, oh my God, he's Superman. He's a hero. We're finally done with all this aggro bullshit. He's Superman.
And then you get the Joker talking about reach-arounds.
And you get the Joker talking about reach-arounds. You get Batman saying, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And worst of all, Superman is evil again. Again.
Is that the worst part? I thought, like, for you, the worst part would be, like, the digital stubble on the Flash's face.
You know, honestly, at that point, like, my jaw was so just like, I was dumbfounded, Nick. I was completely dumbfounded that this was how they were going to end this movie. Are you kidding me?
They have to tie in Batman versus Superman, dumb, like, dream premonition somehow into this.
Batman doesn't need a coat. And not only does Batman not need a coat and goggles, but if everybody knows he's Bruce Wayne, what's he fucking wearing the mask for?
Habit.
Oh my God. This was, as much as I give this movie credit for turning it around and being way better than it has any right to be, this sequence absolutely shit the bed for me. Absolutely shit the bed and burned the sheets.
Yeah, it could have stopped.
Stop with Superman pulling open his shirt with the S. Boom.
And on
Credits.
a high note, that's all you need. You know you're not getting any more movies out of this.
You
Just
know
leave
you're not
it.
getting another movie.
But the worst part is seeing people online going, "This is the greatest interaction between the Joker and Batman I have ever seen."
Oh
Like,
my god.
have you not watched any other Batman movie with Joker in it?
Any other Batman movie?
Literally any other. Go watch the animated series. You clearly haven't seen it.
I got nothing against Jared. I haven't seen Suicide Squad. I got nothing against Jared Leto. I know everybody thinks he's a weirdo. I don't know. I don't know enough about him. I'm fine with him being the Joker. But this was just gratuitously awful. That it just kind of blew my mind that they would end this movie on such a sour note. But I guess that's what Zack Snyder wants, and that's kind of the point of why these movies have not clicked for me. God, yeah. Now I'm worked up again. Do you have anything else you want to add before we give our final take?
I do want to see more Deathstroke. Don't give me Deathstroke and then not use him, really. He gets to be on a boat with Lex Luthor for some reason, and he gets to have a cool mohawk in the future, and that's it. He has been teased for so long and not properly shown that just don't show him at all.
Yeah. Well, at the end of every episode of Watch This, we're going to give our final impressions, and we're going to tell you if we think you should watch this or watch something else. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first.
All right.
I made you watch this movie. You can at least go first.
Zack Snyder's Justice League is a culmination of a lot of really bad movies and a lot of really bad ideas, which somehow, in the end, coalesces in a movie that's pretty watchable. At times, it's a snooze. At times, it's really awesome with cool Superman sequences, incredible Flash effects. I like that he got to save the day, by the way, at the end. I thought that was pretty awesome. And characters that I really like and that I want to see more of. In the end, I am going to say watch this. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. But it is a movie that I think is worth watching. And I think it's the best of any of these DC Cinematic Universe movies that I've seen so far. Again, I have not seen Wonder Woman or Aquaman. I've only seen the three of Zack's trilogy. And it's definitely the best one of those, in my opinion. So I am saying watch this.
I'm going to agree with you. I again, only wanted to watch this because I thought it was going to be a 4-hour train wreck. And 20 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, they're giving proper backstory. They're giving proper motivation to these characters. And I wanted to keep on going. That's not to mention, I enjoyed the action sequences. Zack Snyder is a very action, detail-oriented director, and that's what he's good at. And I'll watch that any day of the week. This was such an improvement over the original theatrical release that I will wholeheartedly endorse watching this. Even if it's 4 hours, just maybe skip the end credits.
Yes, please, for the love of God, don't watch the epilogue. It's not worth it, guys. It's not worth it.
No, I don't care if you're like a super 30 Seconds to Mars fan. You don't need to watch it.
Well, that does it for the first episode of Watch This. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Nick and I will be back with more television shows, movies, maybe some Golden Girls.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hey Megadads, it's Victor Lucas from Electric Playground, and I wanted to give you 30 seconds of my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I was surprised how much I did enjoy it. I thought the whole enterprise was going to feel bloated and unnecessary, and it was bloated, but it was necessary. And I also feel like there was a great redemption arc and a real sense of Zack Snyder being able to achieve what he wanted to accomplish. He brought a whole bunch of visionaries, an army of people, of artists to bring his vision to life, and he was summarily removed from being able to complete his work, and I thought the whole thing was just tragic that he wasn't able to do it. So I'm glad that he was able to do it. I was also very glad that I enjoyed the film. I think Warner Brothers is crazy to not continue with the Snyderverse.
It feels like it belongs to someone else. That shield represents a lot of things to a lot of people. Symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning.
We need someone to inspire us again.
The world's more complicated now.
We're never gonna stop. This world is ours. There's no going back.
It doesn't have to be a war.
It already is.
Welcome back to Watch This, the official Megadads watch-along show about television and movies. I'm joined once again by Nick Edwards. Nick, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. I am excited to talk about this one.
Our premiere episode was Justice League. We're not straying too far from the genre. We're sticking with superheroes because this episode we're talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This comes off the heels of WandaVision, which was an interesting way to follow up this superhero saga, right? It was very unconventional. And now after that, we get the Falcon and the Winter Soldiers, which by all accounts is a much more conventional approach to Marvel superheroes. This story follows Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes after Captain America has passed the shield on. And it's basically what comes next in a world without Captain America. And what were your thoughts going into this show?
After WandaVision, my excitement level was exceedingly high because I thought what they're able to do on the small screen and tell these smaller personal stories about how you move on in the world without these big name iconic characters was really interesting. So I was looking forward to seeing how a Falcon moves on and a Bucky moves on without his rock.
Right.
And
I thought it was really interesting choice the way Disney approached episodic Marvel. They infused it into the DNA of WandaVision, where every week was a different encapsulated television theme, right? So they transitioned us into the format of weekly television Marvel in a very clever way. And then we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was this 8 episodes, somewhere around there.
Too short. We'll get that right out of the way. It was too short.
And it was very much, whereas WandaVision felt like a completely different beast, this felt more like a traditional Marvel thing chopped up. I'm going to read the synopsis here before we just start diving into our conversation. The premise says 6 months after being handed the mantle of Captain America at the Avengers Endgame, Sam Wilson teams up with Bucky Barnes in a worldwide adventure that tests their abilities and their patience. Sam is very reluctant to take up the mantle of Captain America. In fact, he gives up the shield to what he thinks is going to be some sort of preservation effort by the government. Something goes very wrong and it takes it in a completely different direction. What did you think about Sam Wilson's character and his apprehension to take on the role that we all assumed at the end of Endgame that was just going to transition into him being Captain America?
Obviously, at the end of Endgame, we're all just like, oh, he's going to be Captain America. We all saw it in the comics. Most of us saw it in the comics. Taking it in the direction that they did, it makes a lot more sense for his character, because that is a big role to fill.
Right. And really his choice. It's not like anybody is... I mean, sure, Steve gives him the shield, but ultimately he has to decide if that's the road he wants to go down.
Yeah. And I understand his reluctancy to not want to take up that mantle, because there is a lot riding on it, you know. And what does Captain America mean in today's world?
I felt like this series was at its strongest when it dealt with that theme, when it dealt with the dynamic between Bucky and Sam. And just to talk about Bucky for a second, I thought the introduction to his character was flat out brilliant. The flashbacks to the atrocities that he committed as the Winter Soldier, and the way that he was working through accepting that past and moving on, befriending the guy, the father of the guy that he killed, and he was trying to make amends for it. I thought all that Winter Soldier stuff was really well done.
Yeah, and that again continues the theme that I believe Marvel is going for, is, again, how do we move on? How do these characters move on and grieve? And just seeing Bucky with Steve's notebook and trying to cross things off and get caught up, because he's also 107 years old and did unspeakable things. And what does a person like that do? How do they even begin to go to therapy and like resolve those issues? And then you have him being the old best friend to Steve, and the Falcon being his new best friend. How those worlds collide, and it was a great dynamic, and I love that they continued kind of the begrudging friendship that started in Civil War.
Yeah, I thought all the Bucky and Sam stuff was really well done. I think they've got great chemistry, and it evolves throughout the course of the show in interesting ways. And that, I think, was the strongest point. But there's a whole second and almost third plot going on in this story. And I'm going to be honest, I had a very difficult time following the thread of the Flag Smashers, which are the main antagonists of this series.
Everyone that came back from the snap is getting their old lives back. Mm-hmm. So people that, may have taken up somebody's house that was snapped out of existence get displaced. So all these people that have found new homes and new lives and continued to live after the snap are now getting displaced and put in refugee camps, and it's a whole logistical nightmare for people. Because if I came back and someone was living in my house, I don't know how I'd feel. And I also don't know how I'd feel if, someone snapped back into my bathroom when I was taking a shit.
It's something that was definitely played up for laughs in Spider-Man in Far From Home. And it was touched on in WandaVision as well by, what was her name? Rambo? Not like, Rambo, but like
Monica Rambeau.
Long hair, pretty Rambo. So it's interesting that they're continuing that conversation, but I just had a really difficult time following what was going on. And I don't know if that was just my lack of, I don't know if this is something that happened in the books, but just trying to follow it along week to week, I'm like, I know that they're the bad guys, which is kind of muddy in this story, who's really a good guy and a bad guy, but just why they were doing the things that they were doing, I was not connecting with. Couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's one of the weaker parts of the story is they didn't have a true villain. Mm-hmm. I know they wanted to play with this gray area. Well, everyone does something bad, but they all have their reasons. So no one is truly too far from being saved. I get it thematically, but for an interesting story, like, you don't want to see any of those people lose. And I'm sure we're going to get full in on this in a second, but like U.S. agent, you see him going and going and going this far, and then, oh, he's right back. He's a hero again. So even he doesn't get the complete heel turn. So that part was a letdown.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So eventually, after Sam gives up Captain America's shield and returns it to the government reboots the Captain America program and gives it to Douchey McDoucheface.
Store brand Captain America.
Mega America. And he's U.S. agent. I can't recall his actual name. Not really that important. But essentially, he's like a calendar boy, right? He's supposed to be a propaganda machine. Captain America's back. He's a hero. He doesn't have any of the powers, but he's an acclaimed war veteran, right? And
yeah.
So he has the chops and the story, more or less, the PR story to be Captain America. And they send him out to take care of this Flag Smashers issue. And his story is also very interesting because, as you touched on, he starts to turn. And he turns pretty starkly towards being a villain because he wrestles with the fact that nobody respects him, or at least the Falcon and the Winter Soldier will not work with him. They do not respect him. They flat out resent him for having the shield. He wrestles with the fact that he doesn't have any powers. He's trying to prove himself and nobody is taking him seriously. And he starts slowly losing his shit, right?
I'll give it the serious credit for that. I did not expect them to go any blood whatsoever. And I think he snaps by smashing somebody's head in with the shield. With
Steve Rogers' shield, yeah.
As Falcon and the Winter Soldier look on. And just, there is something so off-putting about seeing that covered in blood that was also really effective, that you thought he was just going to be the heel for the rest of the show. But again, they can't pull the trigger on it. Because they're Marvel and they want to set up 8 more series down the road with all these characters that they're bringing in. But you touched on, him not having any powers and wrestling with that. I think there's 2 conversations that thematically I think make the entire series for me. And it's there's a scene in a hotel where U.S. agent, or Captain America at the time, and Bucky and Falcon, they broke somebody out of prison that is not a good person, and we're using them to help track down the Flag Smashers. And guess who has a problem with that? The Wakandans. So the Wakandans aren't happy. They come in, they kick everyone's asses. And there's a conversation afterwards where Captain America's like, they didn't even have powers. Right. And we got our asses kicked. And then a little bit later on, you see, Captain America or U.S. Agent Meyer Brand America finds a vial of the super serum, picks it up, and then is discussing what would happen if he took the super serum. Would you take it? What do you think happens? And he's like, it just amplifies who you are as a person. So that, for me, I keep on going back to that every single time I think about the show. Captain America wasn't just Captain America because he was had super serum. He was an actual decent person, and he always did the right thing. With powers, without powers. And I can see Sam wrestling with that because he doesn't think he'll live up to it, but he does. And then you have I'm just gonna keep on trying to think of funny names for General Mills style Captain America, but he doesn't. He may be a war hero and threw his life on the line for other people, but he was just following orders most of the time, and most of those orders weren't great, as we find out.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting the fact that, like, you've got one guy who ends up with the serum, has the shield, has the uniform, and all he wants is to be Captain America. He just wants to be Captain America. Keep saying, I am Captain America. I am Captain America. And you've got Sam, no powers, gives up the shield, doesn't want... It isn't even that he doesn't want it, but he doesn't feel like he is that yet, right? Right. And he becomes Captain America through his actions before he even gets the shield back. Like, his nobility dictates that he is. He doesn't feel like he can be Captain America, but he becomes Captain America, and the other guy is just chasing it. And he's got everything. He's got all the parts except the character and the core of what Captain America ultimately stands for.
The one thing that actually matters if you're trying to compare yourself to Steve Rogers.
Right. There are, like you said, there are lots of characters in this show. We've got the Wakandans, which I was very surprised to see. I was waiting for them to mention Black Panther in any respect, and they did not. They're saving that. Baron Zemo. And then you've got Sharon Carter, who returns in a very unlikely role, and she is another antagonist in the show. She's what is called the Shadow Broker, and she ends up being kind of like a puppet master of some really nasty crap that's hanging on behind the scenes. I don't know. I mean, we have very limited exposure to this character, I guess, in the first place, but I don't know if I fully bought into that. Just because of how we remember her, I guess, and where we saw her last.
Yeah, last time we saw her, she was, clearly had a thing for Steve, risked her entire professional career, her aunt's good name with S.H.I.E.L.D., and her freedom to help them because it was right. And now we see 5-6 years later, and she's just like this.
She's like from the X-Files. She's like the cigarette.
Twirling my mustache. Yeah.
And she's not even the only person who's behind the scene, because then we get Elaine from Seinfeld coming in at the end. And like, she's also orchestrating stuff from the shadows, I guess.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and so much going on. They're trying to set up. If anything, it made me appreciate WandaVision because there was just one thing going on the entire time. Yeah. This is like, okay, well, everyone loves the Winter Soldier and everyone loves the Falcon. We got to go heavy action, and it's like a Joel Schumacher Batman problem. You're trying to fit too many people in, and it didn't work the way they wanted to. And I understand there was some rewrites due to the pandemic, because I think the original storyline followed something of a chemical attack or a biological attack. So I maybe I'll give them a little bit of leeway.
Right.
But there's just too much, and they're trying to set up too much in the future. The Elaine character, I think, is setting up. There's a team in the comics called Kramer. Kramer comes back from his racist exile, and he's going to be the villain in Black Panther 2.
Oh no. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of like where. So, there's so much that happens in this show, and I felt like they earned a lot of their big moments. There are a lot of really great character moments, and I feel like if they had stuck more to Sam and Bucky, and maybe gave them like one antagonist to follow, I would have enjoyed this a lot more. As it stands, the pacing felt off to me episode to episode. Some episodes early on felt like just like a Marvel movie. There were episodes later on that were devoid of any conflict, and it was just like character beats. And all of it was good, but it didn't feel like it meshed into a cohesive series for me.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give it to him. The action in almost every single episode was amazing, and I think they really went into the weeds with just trying to add so many different things. If it was just Kaylee and the Flag Smashers,
even
Zemo,
US Agent,
yeah, just having that core and like playing with what is good, what is bad, where the lines are, that would have made it more interesting instead of trying to set up all this stuff that is down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And the last episode, I enjoyed, but the action was so different and the camera was so different. It was like watching like the Bourne movies and how they had that like shaky cam action and
shaky cam, yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, US Agent is there helping and being a good guy. And
let's discuss that, because that made no sense to me whatsoever. How he went from murdering this guy in the streets, being exiled from the program, basically being stripped of all of his rank and his military accolades, and then he went and made himself a costume and just showed up, helped the final battle, and then he just gets to walk away and continue being US Agent? Or what the fuck happened there?
Yeah, it was such... The episode ended... One of the episodes ended with him like making his own shield at home in his garage with his war medals, and then he's just there being a good guy. You think he's
listening to Steely Dan in his garage,
smoking a cigarette, pressing some bullets. You think he's like full turn heel at that point, and then he's just like showing back up with his goofy grin, like, I'm here to help. He's Ralph Wiggum at that point, like, I'm helping.
So you're more conscious of this character from, like, I knew US Agent existed, but I don't know anything about the comics. Is he a villain or a hero in traditional Marvel history?
I think of him like the Punisher.
Okay.
Like, he's not really a good guy. He's a by any means necessary, get the job done type of guy. And I think he was where he comes in, and where I think they're trying to go is they're trying to set up their like own Marvel's version of Suicide Squad, which is the Thunderbolts.
So it's a lot of setup, right? It's a lot of setup for future things, and ultimately we end up kind of where we started, where we assume Sam is Captain America now. He's got the uniform that the Wakandans gave him, I guess. They had his size and everything, and just got him all set up.
Bucky's taking measurements anytime. That's what he was doing down in Where does he live? Mississippi or Louisiana?
And ultimately, I kind of felt like, other than the setup stuff, I don't really know what I gained from watching the show. I mean, I appreciated seeing a little more detail in Sam's journey to being Captain America, but ultimately we're leaving him kind of where we left him, assumedly, at the end of Endgame, where he's going to be Captain America.
I think it evolves Sam into having that confidence that he can be a Steve Rogers and make the tough calls, even though they're not always going to be the right calls. Mm-hmm. He gave, a really pretty speech at the end that swayed hearts and minds, which is what Steve was known to do. We didn't even get into the F plot, where there's another super soldier from World War II that was just in prison for 50 years.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely took this in a very socially aware direction. They speak a lot to how it feels to be Sam Wilson, and not only all these expectations, but he's a black man in America. They tackle that in a very interesting way, and I think that's some of the most powerful storytelling in the series. Yeah, it almost seemed like it was better when it was smaller, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it had really great action sequences, which are to be expected in a superhero story, but the show worked its best when it was about character moments, the relationship between them, the struggle that Sam has internally, and all the other stuff was just to set up things further down the road. But the series really worked at its most when it was small.
They could have got rid of all that other background noise and the setups, and they can have one cool thing in their series to set something up farther down the road. Mm-hmm. But everything else, just, I really like the moment where Sam is using his background down at the VA helping vets to talk Kaylee down, and it almost works. Mm-hmm. And just having those small personal moments those were the best parts.
I agree. All right, well, at the end of every episode of Watch This, we give our final verdict of if we think you should watch this, or if we think you should watch something else. I went first last time, so Nick, I'm going to ask you, ultimately, what is your recommendation?
I'm just even a subpar or confusing Marvel movie is still top-notch entertainment. And so I'm going to say watch it. There's no reason in the world not to watch it if you're a Marvel fan.
Yeah, I'm going to say watch this as well. Ultimately, I feel like it was muddled, a little too busy, didn't know where it wanted to go at times, didn't know what it wanted to be at times. But I think there's a core story in there that's really important, especially in today's America. America is a very messed up place right now.
Captain America.
Right, and when you analyze that through the lens of not only what is America right now, but what does it mean to be the face, the representative of what's supposed to be good and just in America, in a person, right? I think there is a lot to mine from that, and I think people can take a lot from it. I think ultimately, like you said, it is kind of subpar as a whole, just because there's so much going on and it's kind of all over the place. But if you stick with it and you follow those important moments, you're going to get more out of it than if you were to sit on the sidelines and not watch it. Plus, seeing him ultimately become Captain America is it's great, right? What an embodiment of the next phase of Marvel to have a new Captain America. And it's in a character that we've seen for a long time, but not like this. So to see him come into his own, like I can't wait to see where he goes next. Same with Bucky. Like I want to know what happens to these characters next. I'm very excited to see the next phase roll out. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Watch This. Thank you, Nick, for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. And we're going to be back next time with, what the hell are we watching, Nick? It's like a Roddy Piper movie?
We'll be back next time with John Carpenter's magnum opus, They Live.
It's Roddy Piper and versus aliens, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And John Carpenter.
Yeah.
He did the thing. He did the thing, Adam.
He did the thing. Now he's doing the other thing. With the wrestling guy. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.